listening to Season 3, Episode 5 of Vixen, a Black beauty and pop culture podcast. If you enjoy what you hear today, please leave a review anywhere you listen to podcasts. Today's episode is on Mel B, former Spice Girl, and the sex tape scandal that plagued her throughout 2018. Now, let's start the show. Hi guys, welcome back to Vixen. So if you listened to last week's episode or if you follow me on Instagram, then you know tonight, which is the night that this episode goes live, Wednesday, March 31st, we are hosting an Instagram Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on sex tapes and how they affect Black women. So because of that, it was only right that I do another sex tape scandal episode this week to go along with that live. In Season 1, I did an episode on Playboy model and video vixen Nicole Narain, kind of chronicling the aftermath of her sex tape with Colin Farrell. So if you have not listened to that episode, go back, go listen to it, and then come back to this one because I think it'll just all make more sense. And then it'll make sense for you on tonight's live if you decide to join us. So also, before we get started, I want to let you guys know that this is more of a conversational episode rather than a full historical account, mainly because I want to open up the floor for more conversation tonight. It's been a while since that Nicole Narain episode came out. So I figured I would give you guys another similar type of episode, but I want to really get you guys' thoughts and just get your mind moving before tonight's live. So just so you know, it's going to be a little bit more of a conversational episode, kind of different from what I usually do, but not really. Okay, so let's get into the episode. Today, I want to talk about the public shaming of Melanie Brown, aka Mel B, aka Scary Spice, aka my favorite Spice Girl. Melanie Janine Brown was born on May 29th, 1975 in Hyde Park, Leeds, to Martin and Andrea Brown. Melanie always knew she was going to be in the entertainment industry. She studied performing arts in high school, and she just knew she was going to be a star. Always. In 1993, Mel responded to a magazine advertisement for a girl group, and that is how the Spice Girls came to be. So I'm sure you guys already know, Mel became to be known as Scary Spice, and the group went on to become one of the best-selling female groups of all time. When the group went on hiatus, Mel released a solo album called Hot in 2000. The album actually did pretty well. And then in 2005, she released another album called LA State of Mind. Then she had another single in 2013 called For Once in My Life. After the Spice Girls went their separate ways, Mel really made reality talent shows her thing. I feel like if you don't know her from being a Spice Girl, you would know her from serving as a judge and a host on multiple reality shows. She has been on so many. I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as I possibly can. So in 2000, she competed on the 5th season of Dancing with the Stars and won 2nd place. Then she was a judge on the Australian and the British versions of The X Factor for 4 years. Then she went on to host an Australian version of Dancing with the Stars for its 2012 season. Make sure y'all are following me now. Okay, that's already like 5 shows. She then went on to be a coach and a mentor on the Australian version of The Voice Kids in 2014. And then from 2016 to 2018, she was a host on Lip Sync Battle UK. This is probably her most known gig, I believe. She was a judge on America's Got Talent from 2013 to 2019. Later that year, she became a team captain on Celebrity Juice, which I believe is a British show. I've never heard of this one. And then in 2021, she competed on The Masked Singer and got 11th place. Ooh, okay, so that's all of it. Sorry, that was a lot. But that is really what Mel B is most known for these days. She's really made that reality talent show circuit her thing. Like, that's become a big part of her career. So that's why she's on so many of them. So that's pretty much, her claim to fame, how she rose to the top, and a little bit about her career. And we'll circle back to this later, but I want to get into her marriage. Mel met Stephen Belafonte in February 2007 on the set of a movie called Talk. Stephen owned a film production company called Remag and had done a few movies and TV shows. Now, I know he has a famous last name, Harry Belafonte, aka Stephen Belafonte. But according to court documents between the two, this is just a little bit of tea. I just thought this was funny. This has nothing to do with anything, but I literally was laughing out loud when I read this. His last name is actually Stansbury, but he changed it to Belafonte to get into film because he wanted to seem like he was related to Harry Belafonte. And like Mel listed this in her court docs, and I was dying laughing. Anyway, so he has absolutely no relation to Harry Belafonte, just so y'all know. So these two had quite the whirlwind relationship. They got married in Vegas just 5 months after they met. Like, they met in February and got married 5 months later. And then they ended up renewing their vows a year later in Egypt. On September 1st, 2001, Melanie gave birth to their daughter, Madison, and they both had daughters from previous relationships. So Mel had her daughter, Phoenix Chai, with her first husband, who actually was a backup dancer for the Spice Girls. His name is Jimmy Gulzar. They were married very briefly, I think less than a year. And their daughter, Phoenix, she should be about 20 or 21 or something like that now. And then also Mel had another daughter, Angel, with Eddie Murphy. Yes, Eddie Murphy. So Steven had a daughter as well, Giselle, from his relationship with model Nicole Contreras. So there was a paternity scandal happening around the time that these two got together, and I want you guys to remember that. There was a very, very public fight about the paternity of Angel, but we will get back to that. And I bring that up because I want to circle back to that when certain things happen a little later. So just remember her daughter with Eddie Murphy. There was like a whole thing going on about this. So anyway, there were always rumors of the couple engaging in threesomes and having an open relationship, but nothing had really came to fruition. It was just something that people talked about. They were literally just rumors. So let me just say here, there is nothing wrong with a couple engaging in threesomes, a little play, like whatever y'all want to do, as long as all parties have properly consented. There is nothing wrong with a couple doing anything like that. So it's like, yeah, it's gossip, but like, who cares at the end of the day? But in 2014, a few more rumors started to pop up about the stability of their marriage because Mel showed up to the set of the X Factor UK's live Sunday show with scratches and bruises all over her face and arms. So she had missed the live show from the previous night because she had been rushed to the hospital a few days prior. So the Saturday show she completely missed because she was in the hospital. Then she shows up on Sunday with cuts and bruises. So of course people were like, is he beating her? Like, what is going on here? So that plus the threesome rumors, it was tabloid fodder, basically. So in her book, Brutally Honest, Mel said this was a really, really hard time for her. She had attempted suicide just days before the X Factor shows, and she admitted to being addicted to cocaine at the time. She actually said that she would wake up and do a line every single day, and that was the only way she would be able to come into work. This is where the UK tabloids come in. So as we all know, the tabloids and paparazzi in America are trash. They are absolutely awful. We've seen what they've done to Britney. We've seen what they've done to a lot of people. But I have to say the UK truly, truly takes the cake on that. Like, I don't know if I've ever read worse headlines. I don't know if I've ever been more disgusted by tabloids than what I've seen in the UK. But I think, the culture, paparazzi culture in America is absolutely horrible, but it's definitely worse over there. I mean, they've driven people to suicide. They've captured people at their absolute worst. We know what they put Princess Diana, Meghan Markle through. Like, they're honestly terrible. Like, they need to be stopped, but it's a lot. Anyway, so The Sun exposed a 2007 threesome that the couple had with socialite Lady Victoria Hervey. Then former playmate Luann Lee claimed that Mel and Steven had an open relationship and that she actually dated Mel separate from her husband in 2008. People weren't too shocked about this, about the relationship aspect of this, because Mel did date a woman for 4 years prior to getting married. But this was extra scandalous because of the open marriage allegation. And everything was more believable because people already thought that she was like, down for whatever, or just like very sexually free, if you know what I mean. Mel didn't deny the relationship, but she did deny the open marriage. She said to The Sun, "I did have a 4-year relationship with a woman, but I've been very happily married for 7 years to a penis." But wait, there's more. Okay, so this year, everybody's just come out the woodwork. Everybody comes out of the woodwork to share their Mel B and Steven stories. So Lorraine Giles is a nanny that looked after the couple's kids. Keep in mind, this is someone very, very close to them. There's photos of the three of them together and all. So here's what she alleges. Mel and Steven had an open marriage. They were free to sleep with whoever they wanted to, and that throughout a period of 7 years, she had threesomes with the couple and had an affair with Mel. So she's basically saying like she had threesomes with them, but then she carried on a relationship with Mel as well, which is the same thing that other woman had said. So it's just like a lot. Like how you having an affair on top of an affair on top of an affair. It's a lot. But anyway, Mel ends up taking out a restraining order on Lorraine shortly after. In December 2016, Mel and Steven officially separated and then went public with their divorce in 2017. So all of that stuff that was coming out in the tabloids about them with the open marriage and the threesomes and stuff, that happened in like 2014, 2015. And that wasn't even all of it. It was a lot more. And then it seemed like they were a little estranged, but just weren't saying anything. But then they officially separated in December 2016. So, like I said, the divorce goes public in 2017. Mel files a restraining order against him, saying that he abused her physically and threatened to release explicit tapes of her as a form of extortion. She also fires back publicly at Lorraine, saying that she had an affair with Steven behind her back, not Mel, and plotted with him to make and release the sex tapes that they had of Melanie. So after this, Lorraine files a defamation claim against Mel B, and she denies all the claims. So I hope y'all are still with me. It's a lot here. So about the sex tapes and legal court documents, Mel's lawyers allege that Steven and Lorraine had gotten a storage unit together, and that's where the tapes, the memorabilia, photos of Mel's father who had passed away were being kept from her. And this storage unit was actually in Lorraine's name. So Steven denied the sex tape allegations and accused her of creating hysteria about them. He said he just wanted spousal support, joint custody of their daughter Madison, and visitation with Mel's daughter Angel. So he was very close to Angel because I believe I think Mel might have actually still been pregnant with her when Steven and Mel met. So I guess they were very close. The divorce was settled in 2018, and it kind of it sucked for Mel, to be honest, to be very frank. She was ordered to pay him 3.5 million euros, which is 4.1 million in American dollars, plus another 3.5 million euros from the sale of their home. And Steven was ordered to destroy their sex tapes together, and if they ever got out, he would be in insane trouble. Like, he would be in a lot of trouble, and he would owe her millions for that. In 2018, Steven went on a podcast called All Rise, where he spoke about the bitter divorce. Here's a quote. It's a long one, and if I had to suffer through it, y'all got to suffer it as well. Sorry. When you say sex, this is my Steven voice. When you say sex tapes, did my wife and I ever have sex and have a phone? We don't have big cameras and lighting and editing. Have we ever taken an intimate moment and filmed it with a camera? Yes. So he also said that he chose to stay silent and speak out at this time because, and this is also a quote, but I wanted to say, what he was talking about. I wanted to kind of give everyone a clear understanding of what happened in my divorce with my ex-wife. There's been so many media reports, so many stories, so many weird allegations. I wanted to kind of just take everybody from A to Z to kind of get a clearer understanding of what really happened besides all of the, the lies that my ex has been telling to every person that will listen and claiming to be this victim. I don't love Mel. I wish her the best, but I definitely don't love Mel. What she did, how she tore this family apart, and how she went and put out these horrific allegations just to fold. And you know why a person like Melanie folded in court? Because during her deposition, Melanie was a horrible liar, end quote. So do with that what y'all will. I'm going to share my thoughts at the end because I got a lot of them. But anyway, also in 2018, Mel's book, Brutally Honest, that I mentioned earlier, was released. It was a very, very personal book. She actually went to rehab during the writing process because the pain of reliving the divorce and reliving her father's death was just a lot on her. So I highly suggest you read her book if you haven't. She goes in depth about the alleged library of sex tapes that Steven had, and she opens up a lot more about the divorce. She revealed that she agreed to drop the domestic violence charges, which I believe is what Stephen was talking about in that quote when he's saying she folded. And she did that, she says, because she didn't want to have all 64 of the sex tapes be shown in court. And if she did the domestic violence charges, it would prevent them from being shown. So that is why she dropped the charges, but she said that she regrets doing that. She also says that she was legally required to watch all of the videos, I guess like in private with her lawyer, and that she suffered extreme flashbacks from this. Here's a quote from the book. Me waking up in pools of piss, vomit, shit, blood, being mortified, dragging myself up and rolling up my white sheets, stuffing them soiled and filthy into bin bags, showering over and over again. I wasn't crying because I was in a place beyond tears, but I was making strange, uncontrollable animal whimpers. So that sounds extremely, extremely dark. And just from that depiction and the way that she's describing these tapes, I don't know who the hell would find that sexy. I don't know why somebody will record somebody in that kind of state. It definitely seems like it was more for revenge later on if needed versus pleasure, because recording someone in that dark of a space where they're making weird noises and they're clearly under the influence, like you're trying to blackmail somebody. That's how I feel. Like if somebody records you in any situation where you're real drunk or out of your mind or whatever, like they're trying to blackmail you later. So I'm just like, just the nature of these tapes sounds so crazy. It doesn't sound like the two were just on tape enjoying each other. It sounds like something dark and messed up, basically. And can you imagine how traumatizing that must have been to have to relive that, to have to watch them and relive that on your own, you know, in front of your lawyers or whoever's there, and then possibly having to watch them again in court is just Christ. Like I can't imagine the feeling. So here's another quote, warning, another long one. Here it is. Looking back now, that was a deal I regret. That was the most difficult time for me. You see, I had to sit down and watch those tapes. It was a legal requirement, believe it or not. And you might think, so what? You're in them, aren't you? Having sex with whoever. It's no big deal you had to watch them. I have taken drugs. I have drunk alcohol. I have had threesomes to please my partner. I have no memory of some of the sexual situations I have seen myself in on video. I am frightened when I see myself in some of these videos. I have seen myself used sexually in a way that I did not enjoy or want. Traumatized. It is an understatement. Sometimes we would invite people to our house. We were always on the top floor, several levels above the children. I would always make sure I got the girl home, that she was okay, that everything was okay. I grew quite close to some of these girls. I still see them out every now and again, and we talk. They are glad I've left him. I know some people out there, my mother included, would never find this funny. Just seedy, sordid, or another word beginning with S, like sleazy. End quote. So I want to talk candidly a little bit just about this kind of sexual manipulation that people do to their partners. I've seen it happen, you know, to friends and to other people that I know. And I just feel like sometimes women want to please a man so badly that we often make ourselves uncomfortable in order to do so. And we cannot do that. We cannot, you know, suffer in this way in order to make men happy. And it just really breaks my heart to have read that quote, because I know so many people who have been there and have done things that they're uncomfortable with and, you know, would later regret. And I think all parties in situations like this are being sexually manipulated. The girl who comes in with the couple, the unicorn or whatever they call it, and the wife or the girlfriend, you know, like a lot of times I feel like these women don't want to take part in some of this stuff. But let me just say, disclaimer, if this is what you're into, I have absolutely no problem with it as long as everybody's properly consenting. But when it's like this, like what we just read from Mel, where it's like drugs involved, you're under the influence, you don't recognize yourself, you're embarrassed, you didn't want to do it, you had to get messed up to do it. It's sick. Like it's just really, really sick. And I hate that this that this became public fodder. You know what I mean? Like, this being such a huge media thing is just so disgusting to me, because this is absolutely traumatizing. I know regular people who have been through things like this, and they are, it affects them. So I can only imagine what Mel was going through at this point and what she went through in the future. So, wow. So that is pretty much the story, the gist of the story, y'all. There is a lot more to their back and forth, but we will be here all day talking about it. And like I said, I want to use this episode as a way to open up conversation for tonight's live. So that is where I'm going to leave that part of the story. But as we can see, even though the tapes were never released, just the mere existence of these tapes hurt Mel tremendously. I don't think any of them have ever leaked or been released, and hopefully if they do, she sues him for all he has, and he has to go back to being Steven Stansbury. But anyway, I want to share a few statistics with you guys. So the End Revenge Porn campaign conducted a study on the effects of revenge porn, and 63% of their study said that their material, which is like the tapes or explicit photos, were posted by an ex. 23% said that it was posted by an old friend. 7% said that it was posted by a current friend, and then another 7% said that it was posted by a family member. And I thought that was really important, because I actually had a conversation with my friends a few weeks ago, and we were talking about like someone's revenge porn being posted, and I was saying, most of the times it's a disgruntled ex. You see, like, it's usually a disgruntled ex or a disgruntled friend. It's always someone that was very close to this person. It's very, very rarely a stranger or somebody that, you don't know that well. And I think that's why it's so hurtful, because it's usually coming from, what's that quote that's like, the call is coming from inside the house? It's literally coming from inside the house. It's like a person a person you trust, and that's why the effects of revenge porn are so real and need to be taken seriously. 93% of those included in the study said that they have suffered significant emotional distress due to being a victim of revenge porn. So, like I said, it affects people very, very tremendously. And luckily there are a few laws in place for stuff like this with revenge porn, but I do think it still has a very long way to go. I did read that a lot of, mental health professionals are advocating for this to be taken very seriously, and be classified as a form of sexual assault. Of course, it can't hold up to actual physical or sexual abuse, but I do think that the effects of it should be taken a little bit more seriously, especially as, we get more into this digital age, this digital world that we're in. And, things that are posted online can truly, truly haunt you and follow you for the rest of your life. And as, time goes on, kids, young girls, young guys, we all have a very intense digital footprint that I don't think people realize. Like, these kids, like when I was young, I had been on the internet for a while, but I didn't really start creating a digital footprint until like my later years of high school. But nowadays, with the younger generation, Gen Z, and those that are coming after them, these kids are creating profiles and are on the internet like very, very young. So like, having stuff like that out there about you can truly affect you. I mean, job applications, a lot of them are asking for your social media handles. Like, you just never know. So I think as we shift into a more digital world every single day, things like this, digital crimes, cyber crimes, have to be taken more seriously. I truly believe that they do. I actually read a news story last week about, it was like a cheerleading team. I can't remember if they were in middle school or high school, but one girl's mom, I think she didn't make the team or something like that. Her kid didn't make the team. So she literally created deep fake. If you don't know what a deep fake is, it literally, I would explain it to y'all, but it freaks me out so bad that I don't even want to explain. If you don't know what it is, just look it up. It is so scary. But she literally created a deep fake video of some of the girls who did make the team, showing them, engaging in like, I think it was like underage drinking and just stuff like that. Nothing too revenge porn like, but I bring that up because I just want to show how easy it is for something to get out there on the internet that you did or that you didn't do, really, with the deep fake thing. and, affect your life. She knew that if she had videos that made those kids look crazy, she could get them kicked off the team and maybe her daughter would have a chance. So that's why I just stress, I'm rambling a little bit, sorry y'all, but that's why I just stress that, things like this be taken more seriously in the digital age, because so much of our lives is online and the internet is not how it used to be when I was younger. It's not like you get online and then you log off later and you go back to real life. The internet is almost like coinciding with real life now. So you need to be very careful what is on the internet about you. And I digress. Let me get off my soapbox. All right. So I read a study called Revenge Porn and Mental Health, a qualitative analysis of the mental health effects of revenge porn on female survivors. This was written by Samantha Bates, and I want to share a quote from it with you guys. Here we go. The loss of control over one's body was a particularly violating aspect of revenge porn, similar to sexual assault. Fraser found that when sexual assault survivors perceived a loss of control, they experienced more distress and trauma. Loss of control in Fraser's study was comprised into 3 categories. Past, loss of control during the sexual assault. Present, loss of control regarding police investigation, loss of control over the recovery process. And future, control over re-victimization. Many participants experienced all 3 of these types of loss of control when they were victimized by revenge porn. Walsh and Bruce also examined sexual assault survivors' perceptions of control and found that a survivor perceived loss of control was related to distress. End quote. So basically, I brought that up just to say, again, a lot of things that, a lot of the effects of revenge porn are very similar to sexual assault, but I want to just say they don't hold up at all. They are definitely not the same thing. I'm not saying that, but I do think the distress experience is very similar. Also, the loss of control thing is very important in my opinion, because that kind of loss is that kind of losing agency over your own body is absolutely nuts. Especially when you don't consent to it. So basically, Mel completely lost control over the situation once it hit the media, and it opened her up to so much criticism, and it basically made her life a spectacle, she lost control over the situation because there are 64 tapes of her that could absolutely ruin her. And it's not just her having sex, it's her engaging in drugs, it's her engaging in alcohol. This is somebody's mother. She has 3 kids. This is, a professional. This is somebody who's worked hard for their career. So she lost control of that, and then it hits the media and it just spirals out of control and becomes tabloid fodder, and everybody's kikiing over it. So I feel like that loss of control is very, very important. If you, anyone who's ever had photos of them leaked or, any videos of them leaked, somebody taking away your sexual agency and your agency over your body in that way and opening you up to so much criticism and distress is just absolutely awful. And a lot of people cannot even, survive things like that. So if you remember when all of this hit the media, then you already know Melanie was really ripped a new asshole throughout all of this. It was absolutely horrible. I remember when it came out, I almost didn't believe it because it was just so crazy. The story was just so crazy. And knowing the Spice Girls and what they stood for and everything they did, you just don't really think that, one of them would be involved in something like this. So I remember being oh my God, when I first saw it. And then I kind of stepped away from it because it was just so in depth. Like I said, the UK tabloids are brutal. They love a story like this. So they ate it up. Every day there was a new article up. It was very sick, and it almost I felt bad reading it because it went so far into her, into her actual personal life. They were interviewing all these people, asking these people all these questions, looking up files. It's a lot. Not that TMZ and The Smoking Gun don't do similar things, but it's just something very different about the UK tabloid. She was just a tabloid favorite at this point, and it wasn't even only about the divorce. It was also just about her personal finances, losing her home, her health. It just was they criticized every little thing, and they just loved it, and it almost was is this woman ever going to be able to recover from all of this? Because they're just tearing her up every single day. now I want to talk a little bit about why did people go up for this in the first place? Like, why do we as a people go so hard for these kinds of stories? And then why was everyone so hard on Mel B? So, in my opinion, I feel like people go up for stories like this because it's scandalous, especially if the person has like a squeaky clean background or like a pop princess background. People love when those people kind of go bad. The good girl gone bad trope is, people absolutely love it. They eat it up, you know? And then when it comes to people's sexuality, that's always extremely interesting to people. Anything that's not traditional or vanilla is, you know, considered taboo. And it becomes when it becomes public fodder, it opens up all these other conversations, and people really start to look into your life and basically just do too much. And when I was reading all of this stuff about their marriage and what they, you know, were doing in their personal life, it really made me think a lot about how we police people's sexuality, and like, why is this something that we would even be interested in to look at every single day? Do I truly need to know that this woman and her husband are having all of these threesomes? Why are people like that socialite or the playboy, the playmate, like, why are they even coming out telling us about stuff like this? You know, unless you felt like you know, they did something that wasn't consensual, why are y'all even telling us this kind of stuff? So it really made me think a lot about how much content we take in on the internet that is truly not our business. And although I'm glad she escaped this marriage, because I don't think it was good for her, I don't feel like all of that was necessary. You know, it was shocking when I read it. I was definitely like, oh my God, what the fuck is Scary Spice into? But then I've just been thinking, like, why would that bother me? She is a human being, you know? Like, why would it bother me, or why would I be so interested and invested in this woman's sex life that I don't even know? So I think the way we police sexuality, we need to think about it a little bit more and just, you know, kind of figure out why we're so invested into these kinds of stories. And then, why was everyone so hard on Mel B? First off, I think that, and y'all can disagree with me if y'all want, I think if it was a different Spice Girl that was going through this, it would have definitely still been tabloid fodder. But I don't think people would have demonized her. I don't think that people would have you know, looked into her life. They would have looked more into Steven's life, or the man that was in the tapes with her, you know? I feel like because Mel is black and, you know, she had a little bit of a history, it was easy for people to blame her, be like, oh, she's an addict, she's this, she's that, she's too sexually free, she's this. So it was just easy for people to go in on her. I think she was an easy target. And to be frank, I mean, it was just easy to shit on Mel because through all of this, because of her past, her relationship with a woman. And not that that's anything scandalous or crazy, it's truly very normal. But I think for the tabloids, the for pop culture at that time when she was dating this woman, that was like a big thing. So with that, you know, people were like, oh, she's sexually free, she's sexually liberated, it's her fault, you know, because that's the way she is. And then also, remember I was saying there was you know, a little bit of a paternity scandal over her daughter Angel, her daughter with Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy actually publicly questioned the paternity of their child. They were dating. I remember they were dating, and then all of a sudden, like, he dumped her on a show or like in an interview, and she had no idea that, you know, he was going to break up with her on TV like that, or wherever he did. I know that she was blindsided by their breakup, and she says in her book that he was really the love of her life, which is really sad. But yeah, he publicly questioned the paternity of their child, so that kind of gave her a little bit of a, you know, I don't know. It put like a stamp on her as far as what she's into and what kind of woman she is. And these are both situations that depict Mel as a quote unquote loose woman who is down for anything. So she had that scarlet letter on her from those situations. So it was easy to classify her as a harlot, a whore, everything. It was just a whole lot of public shaming going on. And we've seen this multiple times with Black women. I remember I was saying in the Nicole Narain episode, there's not a whole lot of sex tape scandals with Black women. It's usually women of other races. But when it is Black women, it's just the public shaming is really, really bad. Like, this situation kind of reminded me of what happened with Black China and Rob Kardashian. I don't know if she sued him for revenge porn. I hope she did and got a lot of money from him, because that was absolutely disgusting, the things that he was posting about her. But I just remember everybody blaming her. And it's like, no matter what she did, nobody deserves to have private photos and videos of them released, especially with whether the person that releases them has 2 followers or 2 million. Nobody deserves to be exposed in that way. And I just find it really, really interesting how when it's a Black woman, it's her fault because she's a gold digger, she's a hoe, she's a drug addict, she's this, she's that. But we go up for white women when it happens to them. We go up for them. We're protecting them. Men are this, slut shame this, but it's not reciprocated for Black women. Period. More people should have stood up for Mel throughout this situation. Mel is a professional. She's been on 50 million talent reality shows. She's a lot of famous peers. Some people did speak up for her. Heidi Klum, a couple other people. They made up rumors about her and Heidi Klum too. It was just like, well, damn, the woman cannot win for losing. I think she's very, very strong to still be standing today and doing her thing and keeping up with her career. But I do think we need to speak a lot about how we treat Black women in these situations. And why do we constantly put the onus of what happened on them and not the partner who released it? Like, why do we grant other women that grace when it's happening to women who look like us, or, just women in general? So just a little food for thought. We're definitely going to talk more about this tonight. I hope to see you guys there Wednesday, March 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and my girl Erica will be on live, talking to y'all about sex tapes and the way that they affect Black women. If you want to join, you can always request to join us. Would love to hear y'all thoughts, or you can just type them in the comments, whatever you want to do. But yeah, I would love to see y'all later on. I hope you guys like this episode, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to Vixen. If you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a review. If you have a submission, feel free to email vixenpodcast@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode.